And somebody who's very well aware of this is a longtime fan of the team, but now working as part of their broadcast from Amazon and FanDuel as well. My colleague from way back in the day on the Worldwide Leader, Michelle Beadle, back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How you doing, Michelle?
What's up, my friend? How are you?
I'm great. Where was this restaurant? San Antonio, right? What do we got for me?
Yeah, San Antonio.
What do you
it's
got
a restaurant called Bliss.
Okay.
It's on the short list of Pop's faves. So,
Okay.
that's very important. That 'cause Pop was also there. He's just not in the picture. It was a pretty iconic dinner for a kid's first day at work.
So, walk me through what you know about this dinner, Michelle. Walk me through.
Yeah, I mean, he's been, as everybody knows that watched the draft and has been paying attention, it's such a whirlwind, and this year particularly so for Wembanyama. I mean, there's a number one pick every year. It doesn't feel like this. And so he's been nonstop going at it. They flew him in. There were several hundred people waiting at the airport, which when I tell you it's hot here, that doesn't even do it justice. It's disgustingly hot. And so to just wait out there for him, and then next thing you know, it's him. His family was all there. They were 2 chef's tables were set up. His family was at one, and then all the guys were at the other. And it's just, getting Tim to come out is big. Sean's like free meal and wine. He'll be there. He's easy. But
That's me too. That's me
exactly,
too.
Right?
Yeah.
If Pop's picking up the tab and he's picking the wines, no brainer. But it's just such a, I'm not a very cheesy person when it comes to this stuff, but it is different here, I think, than 99% of teams, because there were a lot of kids that were flown into the cities that they're going to now play for, and this was not happening. They don't have legends that are still in town that are willing and able and want to sort of take you under their wings. And so it's pretty cool. And Tony Parker will also be a part of this entire thing. He's just more back and forth, I think, than most of the guys. Yeah. I love it. It's a family thing, which if it was any other team, I'd probably tell you, like, ugh, get out of my face. And I get it. I get that we're going to get a lot of hate, but it's not. It's the team I love, and so it's quite fun to watch.
It is pretty neat, Michelle. And I'm sure, again, for this kid who obviously knew about the Spurs, because, Tony Parker signed his checks for a little bit. Boris Diaw signed his checks last year and still signing checks, I imagine. And then you got just the general sense of him knowing who the Spurs are. For him to suddenly get drafted by him, he knew it was going to happen, though. But, I mean, to get drafted by him and then suddenly wind up at the dinner table with Gregg Popovich, Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Manu Ginobili, Sean Elliott. For him, it's exactly what he had to have envisioned as a dream come true.
I mean, I can't even imagine. I'm sure, like, you must have had that moment. I had a moment like that in my career where it was just like a goosebumpy sort of tears. And then Zaza Pachulia murdered Kawhi Leonard in the Western Conference Finals, and it was over. But it was really good up until that point. And so I feel like for this kid, you have all of those things, and you're 19. And yes, he's a worldly 19, and he's been doing this for quite some time, but he's still 19. And I'm not going to forget that. And it's hard to forget it when, you're sitting across looking at them. Both the guys, we've got 2 French guys in this draft. We are the most international team. It's just so many languages being spoken. I kind of love it. But it was crazy to think, and I'd ask them about it, is that they kind of grew up. I mean, they knew who Tony Parker is such a success story, because when he came here, nobody knew who he was. He was just this 18-year-old that they took a flyer on, and it worked out perfectly. And Boris Diaw. What I did notice, and I'm not even trying to be shady about it, but I left there the other day thinking no one mentions Rudy Gobert. And I thought it was crazy. These kids all grow up playing basketball, wanting to come over here and be in the NBA. And it was Boris Diaw and Tony Parker, and nothing about Rudy Gobert. So I don't know. Somebody needs to get to Rudy Gobert and work on the PR.
I mean, if we're on the subject of lost Frenchmen, how about Evan Fournier, Frederick Weiss, Frank Ntilikina? They're not getting their due. You know what?
Oh, yeah, that could have been great.
You know what I mean?
I know. It's Boris Diaw. I love that Boris Diaw. I mean, granted, he's now like a GM, but he wasn't always. I mean, he's mostly known for sailing around the world in his boat. So it's kind of cool that the French kids, it's such a weird connection to San Antonio and France. Like, I would have, if you told me that 25 years ago, I would have laughed. And here we are.
Michelle Beadle right here, Run It Back co-host and San Antonio Spurs, part of the broadcast team here on the Rich Eisen Show, my friend from ESPN from back in the day. Your interview with Victor Wembanyama, how'd you find this kid? What'd you think?
I'm getting him at the end of basically 4 straight days. And even then, just to be as professional as because you could tell, sitting across from him, I could tell he was tired and exhausted. I actually felt guilty. I was like, we'll have other times to do this, but
Yes.
we have to do this today.
Right.
And it's nonstop. And I think, you're in a new city. You now need to leave this sort of craziness of a press conference and all these people. You still have to figure out where you're going to live. Your family's here. They want to obviously get you settled as much as possible. They'll be doing the back and forth as well because, he's got 2 siblings that both play ball. So they can't just be here 24/7. So there's a lot of juggling. And it's quite the effort. He's got to go to Portland. I'm not sure yet what their plan is to do with Summer League. Today, of course, it was announced he's not going to play for the French team at FIBA. So that, I guess, buys him a little bit of rest, or at least a little less work than it would have been. But it's nonstop. It's crazy, too, because the other guy that was drafted at 44 is just sort of like, I feel bad for Victor. I was like, I think we all sort of feel like he's having a really long 3 days, but
Right.
don't feel too bad. He's already loved, and he hasn't done anything yet.
Yeah, but a good kid, right? I mean, like, how about that? What do you got for me?
Like, very just sort of open and honest. I wanted to talk food, and he was like, I'm afraid I'm going to not like the baguettes and croissants here. And I was like, yeah, you're not. They're not even close. But we have other things that you're going to like. And so it'll be fun. And I know he's getting a lot of heat for how thin he is, and he is. But again, he's 19, and I think he's in the right hands. They got a nutritionist. They got a trainer. They're going to do all the good stuff. He just happens to be a really skinny kid. It happens. Bless his heart.
Well, a lot of the conversation about just how skinny he is was based on you as well, Michelle, right? Are you aware of that part of this conversation over the last 48 hours?
That picture was like, that was my first time seeing him in person, too. First of all, I didn't know my arms were buff until I saw that picture. And I'll be honest with you, I was shocked. Like, pleasantly surprised.
Michelle, come on. It wasn't an arm day for you that day? I mean, come on. It wasn't arm day?
DM me your triceps workout.
Yeah, seriously.
I know. It's literally yoga. I don't even do weights. It's all like chaturangas and yoga, which I know I sound like a douche. But
No, you sound like somebody who is doing something healthy, is what you sound like to me.
Yeah, I'll take him to some hot classes, and he'll be good to go in no time. I can't imagine him in a hot class.
No, I mean, so please walk me through. What do you know about what their plan is for him on that front?
I mean,
Michelle.
he's got people around him. And he's going to have his own sort of separate side, and he has a trainer, the nutritionist. Because the Spurs, I think, are kind of all over the place. Some guys have their own, and again, remember, this team is average age is like 20. So it's not your team of vets that are coming in with their own personal chefs. Like Chris Paul going somewhere, he's got somebody already. He's had somebody. These are all kids that are kind of learning this as they go. Mm-hmm. And so I think the Spurs, sort of having been entrenched in the ways they've been for so long, this will also be a bit of a learning experience on that side of things. But I don't think he will suffer in that department. The food part is fine. It's more about doing it in a healthy way. You don't bulk up as a basketball player. You just have to get stronger. That's kind of the difference in what I think we all think of. And anyone else, he's just going to want to put pure muscle on, but that's not really the goal here, is it? It's so that he can withstand whatever's thrown at him in the paint and anywhere else. And so I think that is the goal here. That, Zach Collins will probably get the brunt of trying to go up against him in practice. Again, there's no comparable size to throw at him. Like there's nothing. I mean, if you want to get Boban to come in here, I guess, for some practice, but he's a very unique person. And so I think there's going to be a lot of learning as we go, but the excitement level, when I tell you on Saturday, you leave the season last year and nobody was depressed. It's just, we know what we were. It was a bad record, young team, fun, but also it's a long season. And then you fast forward to last Saturday and it was just like beaming faces, and here we go again. And there's just such hope in the air. So it's nice. It's nice to feel that again. Michelle
Beadle here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's talk about Gregg Popovich here. How is he dealing with all that? I mean, he's got to be out of his mind, right? Like ecstatic.
It's crazy. It's like
right?
It's like when it's like Al Pacino having a baby at 82. It's like you're starting all over again.
Great analogy. Great analogy.
That's what it feels like to me, but good. It's all good. I love the fact that it's been reported. He's got a 3-year deal waiting whenever he feels like signing it. Like that's just such a pop sentence to me, because the joke's always been that there's going to be no heads up. It's just going to be a text and he's done. And then this happens and sort of like a new lease on life. And the fact that he has all of the guys from the teams that he loved the most, they're all still around and most of them are part of the team. They do things with the team already. I think there's a renewed sense of coaching. There was already that with Jeremy Sohan last year. A lot of people, granted, people didn't watch Spurs games, but he was already, you could see him taking him under him, walking him off the court, teaching him, coaching him. There's like a love there. I think the fact that Jeremy is a unique guy on his own, Pop likes that. And now we have this generational, hopefully once-in-a-lifetime type player come in. Yeah, it makes the job fun. And I just think it's renewed time. And I think it's like that for everybody in the building. Even PR, even Tom James, grumpy old Tom James, looks like a happy guy. So I think it's going to be fun to watch, like a different vibe altogether.
Yeah, it's not just more runway maybe for him in his career if he wants it, Michelle. It's also that he will get a chance to set up shop for the Spurs after him, however I assume he chooses or sees fit, because Wembanyama is going to provide the dubs along with him together, where in the same way where Bruce Arians said, and obviously whatever was going on with Brady, that might be another piece of the iceberg we haven't talked about here, but Arians saying I wanted to go out and set things up for my guy, and how maybe Popovich will have a chance to do that. I don't know who the Todd Bowles of this equation is going to be, but I think this is a chance for the Spurs to set up post Pop and have him have a role in that, which is so rare as well.
It's
in
so
our
rare
world.
because you know how fickle coaching is. I mean, you can be coach of the year one year, fired the next. It's a tough gig. And it's not for the weak-hearted. So I think it's very cool. And look, unless something drastic were to happen, a new ownership, what have you, and things completely change, then we know that whoever comes next is going to be thought out, will be part of the Pop tree. I mean, it could be Mike Boonhole, it could be anybody. Mm-hmm. And so I do like the idea that you got these 3 years if you want them to sort of set things up and get things in the best case scenario. And look, they're not going to come out next year and win 70 games. So for all we know, they keep being sort of near the bottom or in the mid, and you keep kind of building and growing and going forward. It's a great position to be in. It's all part of his already pretty fabulous legacy. That the idea that now you will build, if this kid turns out to be everything people think he will be, you will be at the ground floor of that. And I mean, what else could you ask for as Coach Pop?
Yeah, exactly.
It's perfect.
Exactly. I mean, it's like Pacino choosing who the nanny's going to be when he's 90.
Yeah, be careful. That man is fertile. I mean, everyone needs to slow down.
You got a good Popovich story you're willing to share? What's your favorite one, Michelle?
My favorite thing about Pop is, like, he scolds me a lot because I tend to eat not the way he probably, like, for him, every meal is an event, right? He does not take meals for granted. Mm-hmm. He loves food. He loves wine, whatever. Whereas I'm just like, when I'm alone, I'm just going to eat cheese and crackers and call it a night. Like, it's not a big deal. So I get scolded a lot by him for that. He knows how much I love New York. I love Pop so much because he knows how much I love New York. He's always reaching out to me. Last year was such a cool experience. It was my second year, but it was my first year traveling because they had not been traveling.
Right.
So to be on the plane and have Pop sort of come back and throw a magazine at me and yell at me to read an article and then kind of come. I mean, the other crew is just like, what is going on? I was like, guys, he's giving me advice about wine. Like, I don't want to hear it. And it's so awesome because, again, this is my favorite team. It's the only team I cheer for and root for decades now. It's surreal at times to sort of be like, are Pop and I, like, we're hotel gym buddies. We're always in the hotel gym at the same time. Like, it's just a very surreal thing for a Spurs fan to have. And he's not a guy that, as we all know, he's prickly to a lot. So I do not take it for granted. These are special times, however long they last. I'm loving it.
What does he listen to when working out? What does he do?
I think he's kind of a chatty guy. Like, he sort of talks and then he makes little snide comments because it'll be usually, there are a couple coaches that'll be in there at the same time.
Uh-huh.
It's that team hotel thing. Yeah, he's more of a chatty guy. Like,
really?
That's kind of his thing.
Is he trying to get out of working out? Just is he spending time? That's why I don't know. No,
chat
between reps.
He's definitely doing stuff. I see him working.
That's good.
And then he's doing like little cyclings of things, and I'm like, huh, what does he do? I'll watch a movie or something on an elliptical, and he'll come and see what I'm watching. I'm like, it's not that good. It just gets me through the 30 minutes.
How great is this, Michelle? I mean, you're going to have a front row seat to Victor Wembanyama arriving for Popovich for the Spurs. I mean, this is it. Like, this is like book material. This is it. You're at the front. I mean, today's the 20th anniversary of Today's the 20th anniversary of LeBron being drafted. It would be basically if the Cavs had a legendary coach like Popovich at the end of his championship Hall of Fame reign getting LeBron. That's the only analogy. It's incredible.
I mean, that's crazy to think about. Yeah, you're right. It's crazy to think about. I'm excited for the season to start.
I bet.
I'm nervous for Victor. I mean, there's, as much as the feel-good vibes are here, the rest of the league and fans are like, they want to take him down, rightfully so. So it's going to be a long season. But I maybe I'm naive, maybe I'm crazy, but he really seems like a chill kid. And if that is what we're going to get a lot of, then he's in a great position to really sort of handle what is a very, very hot spotlight.
Michelle Beadle, thank you for the time. It's funny, you said earlier in our conversation when you were talking about the dinner that the photograph, you said something along the lines like, I would, meaning me, I would know what that meant, what that felt like or something like that, because that never... your
career moment where you arrived.
Right. I mean, I certainly didn't have to do with a dinner at ESPN or lunch.
No, God, no.
Oh, my God. I thought that's what you meant, because I'll tell you the story of John Walsh, the father of the godfather of SportsCenter, taking me to a lunch at some greasy spoon down the street from ESPN, and I thought to myself, I've arrived. Like, I'm an ESPN executive is taking me for a meal. Like, what a dream come true. And then I realized that for me to have him spend $10 for me on lunch, I'd have to keep reordering soda after soda, and then the bill came, and the big surprise was free refills. So,
yeah, they just didn't do it the same there, did they? No, my moment was getting to do the Western Conference Finals as the NBA countdown person, like full circle, and I cried a little bit. No, nobody bought me dinner at ESPN. Who are you kidding?
No, it was, I think, $7.75 was what.
Or you just go to the cafeteria, and that was it.
No, yeah, I know exactly. There. So Pop picked up the check. He picked up the check. That's confirmed.
I have to imagine he did. I mean, look, there's no shortage of wallets in that room, but
right.
I would have to think it was all Pop
because
that is one of his fave restaurants. That's in the top 5.
All right, because if this was the NFL, Wembanyama would have been stuck with the bill with multiple screaming eagles ordered by the group.
God.
That'd have been it.
NFL guys don't play. That's one of the meanest hazing things that exists in sports. It's ridiculous. The screaming eagle bottles, that's not right.
Well, unless you're drinking for free. Thanks for the call, Michelle. Appreciate it. Let's do this more often.
Thanks, guys.
You got it. At Michelle D. Beadle on Twitter, at Michelle.Beadle on Instagram, right here on The Rich Eisen Show. Catch The Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.